So basically, as you mostly know, probably also from the webinar that we had a couple of weeks ago, the Marie Curie Fellowship is a program that involves the mobility of researchers. So basically, it implies that you should move from one country to another to pursue your research. It's currently a training career development that is based on excellence in science, and it's open to all fields and subjects, and it might be eligible for you as a researcher, and also if your host institution wants to also apply with some specific researcher. So in this case, if you are a fellow that you want to apply for a Marie Curie Fellowship, you must firstly find the host organization that might want to host you, and also to find a supervisor, or in the case you are applying for a global fellowship, you might add to have 2 supervisors. It's always good to ask for your supervisor for recommendations on how to prepare the fellowship, and try to write your application together with your supervisor and your host institution. It will be easier because probably they'll have some experience in preparing previous applications and can give you some tips, some previously accepted projects that might be very useful when you have to fill in the application, and try to submit everything together. In the case you are a supervisor or an institution, you might want to find an applicant. Ask also other people and collaborators to provide you some recommendations to have good fellows, and again, write the application together with your fellows. So what could be some recommendations that would be useful when you are preparing this? So one of them is try to prepare it with time. So usually the call is open, I think, 4 months. In the beginning, you may think that it's plenty of time, I can leave it for afterwards. Try to prepare it as much as with time as possible, because there's a lot of non-scientific parts that you should be aware of, that you need to prepare very carefully. And also the application has some degree of complexity. It's not very intuitive sometimes in the beginning to put the things in the application. So don't leave anything to the last day. Sometimes the applications, they bug, they don't work properly in the last day. So try to do everything as much early as possible. If you have the possibility, when you are preparing your application, ask other people to read it, to provide their feedback, because they might have experience also in preparing this type of calls. And if possible, try to be in constant contact with the national contact points of your country and the country of your host institution, because they might help you in the preparation of the proposal. Always respect the limits. You have time, page limits, you have and word limits. If you don't respect the limits, your application will be not evaluated. They are really strict with this. So be aware that if you have a 10-page limit, it should be 10-page and no more. And a very useful thing that, at least for me, it was very useful when I prepared mine, it's to read other Marie Curie proposals, preferentially the ones that were funded. I must say that if I haven't had other Marie Curies, I think I wasn't able to finish the application. There are a lot of fields that we are not used to fill in, and if you see any examples, you can get any ideas on how to fill in the fields. When I went to a webinar on the preparation of Marie Curies, once I was prepared mine, one of the suggestions of the national contact point is, when we are using preparing your application, use as much as possible colors, bold, underline, when you want to highlight something in the text, not a text without any colors when anything to highlight, because you have to be, that's one of the points, be evaluator friendly. You have to try to highlight the points that you want the evaluator to be focused on. So if you can use these colors, this type of bold, underline, or some other techniques to highlight text or figures or somehow other things, please be as much as imaginative as possible. Don't leave anything in blank. I think this is not an issue, but there's some of the concerns of the national contact points. All the spaces and fields must be filled in, and most importantly, don't give up. Sometimes it's difficult to keep focus on this because you are preparing this most of the time, you are working at the same time. So be focused. It's worthwhile because in the end you might get funded, and if you are not funded, you already have an application that might be very useful for another cause that you can use to apply to other projects. So these kind of projects, it's basically focused on training to research. So basically individualized people are applying to do a specific action. It must have a lot of activities, mostly based on hands-on training that may allow to develop scientific and transferable skills. It should have an intersectoral and interdisciplinary transfer of knowledge. If you can do a secondment during your Marie Curie, it's always good to include it. You have to think about on the organization of scientific training and dissemination events, but this, I think Maite will afterwards talk a little bit about the implementation part, also organization of communication and outreach activities, and always consider the gender issues. So this is the general structure of a Marie Curie proposal. So you have three main parts of the proposal that are the ones that are evaluated, and you have an actual note, which are excellent impact and implementation. And all of these three blocks are the ones that get together in the part B1, which is the part that you will have an actual mark. Then in part B2, you will have the opportunity to put your CV, the capacity of your host institution that usually you can put in tables. You have also unlimited pages to discuss ethics. And also, if you are applying for a global fellowship, you can also include the letters of commitment to the other institutions. So in this part B2, these three major sections, they have different ponderations. You have excellence that accounts for 50% of your note in the Marie Curie application. So each one of the sections will be scored from 1 to 5. The excellence, it's 50%, impact 30%, and implementation 20%. Although excellence accounts for 50%, a common mistake that is sometimes made for people who are preparing these proposals is that since excellence is the most important one, most of the times, most of the attention that people get to is for the excellence part. And don't forget about the other ones, because excellence is only up to half of the proposal, and pay equal attention to also to the other parts, because all of the parts are equally important, and all of the parts have an average in the final score. So now I set the stage for the three Marie Curie fellows in our cost action. Firstly, Paula will talk a little bit about excellence. She did the PhD in Spain, and she moved to Edinburgh, to the University of Edinburgh in the group of Luke Botter. She was recently awarded with the Marie Curie Fellowship that will be starting in the beginning of next year. Colm was a Marie Curie Fellow in Denmark between 2017 and 2019, and Maite, after doing a postdoc in the States, she came back to Spain with a Marie Curie also in the CIMA in the University of Navarra. Colm will talk a little bit about the impact, and Maite will talk a bit about implementation. So I'll leave the stage now for you guys.